5 years have passed since the outbreak of the Quantum Realm virus, and in that time, the Marvel Universe has been reshaped into something unrecognizable. A new group of heroes carries the plot now. Kate Bishop, an archer who once idolized Hawkeye, Riri Williams, a prodigy who took up the mantle of Ironheart, and Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel, the heart of the trio, all parade the city, taking down zombies. Traveling with them is Friday, a remnant of Iron Man's suit, being controlled by a teddy bear. One day, while they parade through the abandoned streets, looking for supplies, they stumble across the wreckage of a Quinjet. Going through the wreckage, the girls find a mechanical device hidden inside the corpse. Their raid is suddenly interrupted by Clint Barton, Hawkeye himself in zombie form. Despite being a zombie now, Hawkeye still uses his bow and arrow like an Avenger, but now he wields them as a predator. Kamala fires a couple of arrows back, but given the obvious power gap and the fact that she can't afford to waste so many arrows, they secure themselves an escape route as they retreat swiftly. Getting back to their base, the girls analyze the tiny mechanical device they found, and to their surprise, it is identified as a transmitter that had been shrunk with quantum science. Riri examines it and reveals that although it uses technology way beyond what she's used to, she identifies it as a message from a big shot agency called SHIELD, reaching out to potential survivors to converge in a place to help stop the pandemic. After a brief moment of hesitation, the girls finally decide to take the risk. Meanwhile, somewhere else in the city, a powerful-looking zombie is seen giving orders to Hawkeye, telling him to prepare for the arrival of the Queen of the Dead. The following morning, the trio sets off, packing their gear and securing the device in a reinforced case. They drive toward Ohio with their destination being an abandoned SHIELD facility. The road, however, is not kind to survivors. As they move deeper into the countryside, lightning suddenly begins to attack them and they barely manage to get through alive. Soon, they stumble across a massive crater and find themselves at the site of a titanic clash between Icarus of the Eternals and a zombified Carol Danvers. Kate instinctively prepares a trick arrow, ready to help if needed, though it is hopelessly small compared to the power in front of them. The chaos attracts a horde of zombies. Kamala tries to clear a path with her embiggened arms, but there are too many. Carol Danvers, now a powerful zombie, spots them and blasts Kate, killing her instantly. He starts pursuing the rest as well, who try their best to escape. During the escape, Riri is bitten. Knowing she doesn't have much time, she makes Kamala take the device and Friday and fights the zombies to give Kamala a chance to get away. Riri is ultimately killed, and Kamala escapes briefly with the help of Friday. Carol Danvers catches up to Kamala and is about to blow her up too, so she uses every ounce of her last energy to run, but it's still not enough to secure an escape. She eventually collapses from fatigue, but is rescued by Blade Knight, a warrior with the powers of Blade and Moon Knight. He offers to help her, and together they head to the Ohio SHIELD base. At the base, they meet Melina Vostokov, Alexei Shostakov, and Yelena Belova. Melina has tech that can temporarily control zombies. She explains that the device can save humanity if sent from space because Earth's atmosphere blocks the signal. Before they can plan, zombies attack the base, led by Okoye and including zombified heroes like Steve Rogers and Clint Barton. Alexei destroys the upper half of Rogers, Blade Knight kills Ghost, and Yelena fights, but the zombies are overwhelming. Melina sacrifices herself to help the others escape, but Okoye kills her and destroys the device. The survivors flee on motorcycles, carrying the weight of loss but still holding on to hope. Blade Knight tells Kamala he knows where to find a rocket to take the device into space, giving them a chance to continue their mission. In a flashback, Shang-Chi, his best friend Katie, and FBI officer Jimmy Woo navigate the chaos of a zombie-infested San Francisco. While they scavenge through the burning city, they notice a few oddities as some particles begin to cause monstrous mutations among both the humans and the zombies. happens. After a while, they and a small group of survivors are cornered by a massive zombie horde. Just as all hope seems lost, the Ten Rings organization, led by Shang-Chi's father, Xu Wenwu, intervenes. Wenwu unleashes the full power of his mystical Ten Rings, cutting through the undead easily. During the rescue, Shang-Chi, who is also trying to fight back, is bitten by a zombie. Recognizing the grave danger, Wenwu transfers the Ten Rings to his son, using their power to contain the infection. He then stays behind to face the horde alone and buy them time, allowing Shang-Chi and the survivors to escape. 5 years later, now in the present, Shang-Chi, Jimmy Woo, Katie, Death Dealer, and the remaining survivors head towards Zemo's sanctuary, the Raft. On their way there, they get ambushed by a group of bandits who have come to raid them. Shang-Chi and his squad take their time taking down the bandits as a warm-up exercise. Arriving at the Raft, they run into Kamala and her group. They also run into Zemo himself, who welcomes both factions on board. He gives a heartfelt speech promising them safety as they sail into the seas on his huge raft. After they settle in, both Shang-Chi and Kamala's factions share their experiences over lunch and agree to work together to send Kamala's transmitter into space to save humanity from the zombie apocalypse. For a brief moment, it seems the survivors might have a chance to regroup and carry out their mission. However, it doesn't take long for Zemo's true intentions to become apparent. He plans to sacrifice both groups to the infected Talokanal, led by a zombified Namor, to advance his goal of reaching New Asgard. Chaos erupts as Namor and his undead followers suddenly storm the raft. Several refugees are killed, and a side character named John Walker tries to escape in an escape pod with Zemo, only to be ripped apart by Namor, leaving a few survivors standing. Namor reveals that Wanda is hunting the device and directly attacks Kamala. Acting quickly, the heroes combine their strength and try to fight Namor back, but even with their combined strength, they're still not strong enough to stop the beast. Namor presses them into a room and ends up killing one of Shang-Chi's men in the process, so Kamala thinks quickly and uses the transmitter to deliver a fatal blow to Namor, killing the furious creature. As the raft begins to flood, Yelena Belova makes a fateful decision. Despite her father's objections, she stays behind to manually override the escape pod launch, giving the remaining survivors, including Zemo, the chance to escape. She raises a final toast to her fallen allies before succumbing to the infection. The raft then floods completely while the rest of the heroes escape and head for New Asgard. In a flashback to Wakanda during the early stages of the zombie outbreak, Peter Parker, Scott Lang's Head, and T'Challa, the Black Panther, arrive in the kingdom only to find it overrun by a zombified Thanos. Thanos, who with his sane mind, is already a terror because of his one true goal of destroying the planet, is now driven by a monstrous hunger and wielding the Infinity Gauntlet. He turns the once prosperous nation into a battlefield. Despite the overwhelming odds, the trio prepares to fight, determined to protect what remains of Wakanda. After a moment of meaningless combat, Thor, Rocket Raccoon, and Groot arrive as backup. The combined forces of Wakanda's defenders and the Avengers attempt to confront the zombie titan, but Thanos proves nearly unstoppable. In battle, Thanos shows off the huge power gap between them as he easily kills Groot and Rocket, leaving Thor gravely injured in the crossfire. Realizing that they might be cooked, the trio desperately tries to find a way to neutralize Thanos. They pick up an Infinity Stone and try to knock him out with it, but he ends up snatching it and adding it to his gauntlet. Thanos then attempts to snap the Infinity Gauntlet, intending to erase what little resistance remains, but T'Challa makes the ultimate sacrifice and plunges them both into Wakanda's vibranium core, unleashing a massive surge of energy that destroys the Infinity Stones and neutralizes the immediate threat. Peter and Lang survive the ordeal thanks to the intervention of the remaining sorcerers of Kamar Taj, who pull them from the destruction and stabilize the energy surge. In the present day, Kamala and her group arrive at New Asgard, a city that has survived the apocalypse. Upon arrival, they encounter Valkyrie, who denies them entry into the city. Blade then speaks up and convinces Valkyrie to open the gates with the support of his pantheon deity, Khonshu. Upon entering New Asgard, the group is immediately confronted with a grand feast, lavishly prepared across a massive hall. While the Asgardians feast, Kamala notices Thor sitting silently on his throne. She attempts to approach him, but Valkyrie intercepts her, explaining that since returning from Wakanda, Thor has refused to speak to anyone. The group then decides to join the feast. The sense of safety is shattered when the mysterious benefactor suddenly reveals herself. Kamala is shocked to see that it's none other than Wanda Maximoff, the Queen of the Dead. She reveals that the food served at the feast is made from zombie remains. The Asgardians who had eaten then immediately began to transform into undead predators. Red Guardian, who had also consumed the feast, transforms into a zombie. Chaos erupts as the newly turned Asgardians start to attack the survivors. Zemo, Wu, and Death Dealer are quickly killed, while Kamala, Blade, and the remaining heroes are left to fight desperately for survival. Kamala focuses on protecting Thor, who remains motionless on his throne, despite the carnage surrounding him, but the situation forces her to leave him behind and escape with the rest of the survivors. Together, the survivors locate an Asgardian spaceship, which they immediately board and try to escape with, but they get stopped by zombie Wanda, who pulls them back with her force field. When it seems like all hope is lost, Thor appears and stops her.
There he is!
Okay, now that's the guy.
The lightning god engages the zombie queen in a fierce battle, but can't manage to take her down without his hammer, which he had lost to Thanos. Pushed to his limits, Thor realizes he can't win, so he tells the survivors to escape while he buys them time. The survivors shoot for the stars, narrowly escaping the city and reaching orbit. Once outside Earth's atmosphere, they activate the beacon intended to alert any potential allies or forces in the galaxy. However, their hope is immediately dashed when the Nova Corps responds to the signal immediately. They realize that the Nova Corps has been there the whole time, and yes, decided not to take any step to save Earth. The Nova Corps then informs the survivors that Earth is under strict quarantine due to the zombie outbreak, and that no external help will be forthcoming. Like that's not enough. They order them strictly to return to Earth, or else they will put an end to them themselves. Realizing that Earth is under strict quarantine as revealed by the Nova Corps, the survivors attempt to regroup and formulate a plan, but before they can act, the Nova Corps shoots down the Asgardian spacecraft carrying them. Although Kamala does her best to keep the ship intact, it eventually gets destroyed, making them fall momentarily into Earth's orbit. Just as the situation becomes dire, the sorcerers of Kamar-Taj arrive and telephoto the heroes one at a time, rescuing them from immediate destruction. Once they've all been teleported, the sorcerers reveal crucial information about how the raw energy of the destroyed Infinity Stones has been contained inside the Hulk and has transformed him into the immensely powerful being. They explain that the Queen of the Dead is busy creating a huge army of undead so she can harness this power for herself. They humbly request that the survivors join them with Spider-Man and Scott Lang's heads to prevent the power from getting into the wrong hands. Minutes later, Kamala is seen thinking deeply to herself. Shang-Chi approaches her and asks what's bothering her. She then opens up about how she feels really guilty for convincing all of them to give up everything on the chance that they'd be able to fix things by flying to space, but she had almost gotten them killed instead. He comforts her, saying that rather than risking their lives aimlessly, all she did was give them a real reason to fight, and they're grateful to her. They reunite with the rest of the heroes to plan for the great battle. As the heroes discuss their next steps, the Queen of the Dead is revealed to have assembled a massive army of the undead, including previously infected heroes and civilians. She approaches the Hulk with her legions and starts to attack. The Hulk stands his ground and takes down a good number of the undead, but their numbers are overwhelming. Zombie Wanda keeps revealing more and more of her trump cards in a particular order, getting the Hulk badly injured and draining him out. The moment she tries to snatch the Infinity Power, the heroes arrive to defend the Hulk, knowing fully well that failure here would mean the total domination of Earth by Wanda's forces. The heroes coordinate their attacks seamlessly, taking down wave after wave of enemies effectively. Everything seems to be going smoothly until Wanda decides it's time to change tactics. Instead of attacking head-on, she attempts to get inside Kamala's mind, trying to persuade her to join forces. Kamala, however, resists the intrusion, blocking Wanda's mental reach entirely. Wanda then decides to shift her plan. She manipulates the battlefield, setting Kamala up to face off against zombie versions of Riri and Kate, forcing her to confront twisted versions of her old friends. She uses the same cruel strategy for the other heroes, forcing each of them to battle companions they once trusted, who have now been turned into mindless zombies. Amidst the chaos, a sudden crack of lightning heralds the arrival of a zombie Thor. He charges directly at Hulk, striking with all his might, but the Hulk, fueled by the raw energy of the Infinity Stones, overpowers him easily. He uses his signature smash move to crush Thor's skull. And the sheer force of the impact creates a protective shockwave that obliterates the surrounding horde of zombies. This clearance and distraction give Wanda the easy access she was looking for. Stepping into the space before Hulk, Wanda begins siphoning the incredible power of the Infinity Stones, channeling it directly into herself. Determined to stop her, Kamala charges forward with a series of attacks, but her attacks barely make a dent. Wanda ignores the repeated assaults as she speaks to her. She weaves a vision of a world remade without loss, one where the pain and death they've endured could be undone. She appeals to Kamala's deepest desires to protect her friends and fix the damage that has been done, pulling at her emotions. Kamala hesitates, torn between the possibility of hope and the harsh reality of the cost. She looks around and sees the other heroes getting jumped, so after a tense pause, she finally accepts Wanda's hand. Suddenly, an explosion erupts, consuming not just the battlefield, but the entire world as well. Kamala wakes up in her apartment in New Jersey to the sound of the doorbell. She answers it and sees her best friends Riri and Kate inviting her to hang out. Kamala immediately gets emotional and embraces them deeply, telling them she'll never let them go again. She concludes that the whole thing must have been a terrible nightmare, so she casually hangs out with her best friends, reminiscing about the old times over boba. However, the illusion begins to flicker and subtle inconsistencies emerge. Shadows of zombies begin to glitch before her eyes, and she begins to hear someone call her name faintly, warning her that it is all not real. She then catches a glimpse of the real Riri, who warns that she has hacked the system controlling the simulation. Thank you for sticking to the end of my video. Please do me the biggest favor by leaving a like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video.